Hi, my name's Connie Jehlik. I'm the instruction director for the United States Pony Clubs, and I'm going to do a video on a safety or a pre-ride safety check or tack check, and this is for saddle up safely, and I'm going to begin with the bridle. So the first thing is just to maybe look at the bit to make sure it's not too tight and pinching in on the corners of the lips of the horse, nor too big to where it's hanging, banging on their teeth. So those are some things. The horse seems content with this bit. If they were standing here chewing and gaping and you hear the bit clanging, you know that definitely there's an issue with how it's fitting. This is a full cheek snaffle. It does not have the keeper, which would go right here to hold this. So for safety wise, you want to make sure the horse doesn't turn around and itch, scratch himself, because this can catch on things. That's one of the reasons for having the keeper. All right. The cavesson is fit well. It should be at least 2 fingers below the cheekbone. If the cavesson is way up here, it'll rub and irritate on the cheekbone of the horse. All right, the throat latch, at least a hand like this. Of course, a small hand or adult hand is going to be a little bit different. But you want to make sure that the horse can bend here and that this is not doing that. Okay? These are called runners. They should be up on the tabs. That's just to help keep things from flapping. And also, if you notice, there's many holes here, and that's great. You never want to buckle to the very last hole, because then if the bridle does break, there's nowhere else to hook, and you can't finish your ride. You may be out on a trail ride. All right, do make sure, a lot of times I see that people have the brow band too tight, and they have it squished up here, and it's pinching the ear. So I'm just very cautious about that to make sure it doesn't pinch the ear. And of course, go to the other side. You do have to look at both sides and just checking everything. Now, the other thing that I haven't checked is just on the opposite side. I know that this bridle is new, and so the stitching should be good. But you need to always look at the underside, because when the stitching, that's where the stitching will show when it's beginning to tear. Okay, and that's it for the bridle fit. I'm going to show you how the breastplate should be attached, and just some safety features about how it should be set up to ride. When I had Alexander bring the horse down into the arena, we had unhooked this from the reins, because leading the horse with the running martingale, it's not the safest thing, and it was quite a distance to come down to the arena here. So I'm going to have her undo the reins, and we'll run the reins through. So I just had coiled this up so it wasn't dangling. All right, so we'll run the reins through, making sure we don't turn the horse loose. Okay, and so Alexander's going to hold the horse now, and I'll hook the reins. All right. Again, running it through, that's called a keeper. Okay, so Alexander, you can just hold him like that. All right, so a couple things on the running martingale. The first thing, is the keepers. Whenever you use a running martingale, you must have a keeper here. Very unsafe not to, because this can get up here and caught, and that would not be a good scenario. So you must have keepers to keep the rings from getting caught up into the buckles by the bit itself. Right now, to make sure that the running martingale is fit properly, these should reach up into the throat of the horse, so it's very close, maybe just a little bit short. The rest of the martingale, the rest of the breastplate, is pretty good. I did have to, I am concerned that this here is hanging too low. So it should it should go closer to the chest of the horse and not be hanging, because when we're jumping, I don't want the horse's leg to get up and caught through there. Now you can adjust it this way, but it's missing the back ring back here, or keeper, to keep it steady. So it should be closer like that. It is fitting along the shoulder here, which is okay. To be honest with you, the breastplates are challenging to fit correctly, and you have to just keep adjusting and working with your instructor to keep it safe. Another thing to show on the breastplate that it's not too tight is to pick up the front leg and to come forward with it, and to make sure that it's not pinching here. So you just have to be careful that they're not too tight or too loose, and that's the key to a breastplate. Next thing to check is the saddle, and again, I'm not doing saddle fit, but part of checking the saddle for safety is that at least it's sitting in the proper place on the horse's back, and that it's not up here in the front of the withers, or that it's back here by his loins. So it does, from a visual look as if it is in the proper place. Okay, the breastplate is hooked up to these D-rings, or surcingle rings, which is correct. And I'm just going to start at the flap up here. I'm checking that the stirrup bar is open, that this little lever is down. You don't want it up, because if you are jumping or riding and something happens and you start to fall off or are going to get in trouble, your stirrup leather needs to be able to quickly come off, all right, and not so you don't get hung up on the saddle. All right, what I'm looking for is you turn the stirrup leather over up here, and I'm looking for the stitching. This looks excellent, because this is the most common place for fraying, loose stitching to occur. The other thing I'm going to check is here, because this is where it wears, where the stirrup iron sits down on the stirrup leather. So I'm just checking that it looks like it's not cracking. It's going to hold. Underneath the stirrup, underneath the saddle flap, there must be a billet guard. The reason for the billet guard is once the girth is in place and it's tight, then this should be pulled down to where it goes over the buckles on the girth, so it's not then, as you ride, these buckles then aren't making holes in the stirrup, in the flap. So that is the reason for the billet guard, but it must be there. All right, when the girth is attached, most common is to the first and third billets, and there are three. One can be for a safety if another one does break. This is a elastic girth. The girth is fairly snug. Before Alexandra gets on, she may want to tighten this one more time. And then after you're on, it needs to be checked again after going around the arena. Oh, one last thing. The saddle pad needs to be attached to the saddle somehow. Sometimes there's straps up here that come through and go around the billets. Very common nowadays is this little loop down here, and you can put one of the elastic buckles through that, and you do that on each side to help to keep the pad from sliding back and off the horse as you ride it. Both on the bridle, the breastplate, and the saddle, when I do a safety check, I'm always looking for the condition of the tack. So not just that the stitching is in place, but also that the leather is not going to break during the ride. So again, I showed the spots, but the condition of this tack is quite good. Now, I would repeat, to finish the safety check, you can't just do one side. I would repeat everything I've just done on the other side.